I really never thought that I would get to 1,000 subscribers, but here we are, and here's your Q&A. That's what you guys wanted, so I am here to deliver. I aim to please, of course. Hello, welcome to the video. It might be a long one, so grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a cozy blanket if it's cold, or a nice fan if it's hot, I guess. Grab your pup, and let's just get into it. You guys asked a bunch of questions. I did break them down into categories. I'm gonna start with the book related ones, so then if you don't care about any of the other like personal ones or whatever, feel free to go watch something more interesting, I guess. But I had asked originally what you guys wanted to do, and most of you had requested a Q&A, so I am here to answer all of your questions. So when I got close to 1,000 subscribers, I put up a poll on my community tab and asked if you guys, like, what you guys would want to do to celebrate our little community here hitting 1,000 subscribers. The majority said a Q&A, but then there was also a large group of people that were interested in a Q&A and a giveaway. So I today am here to answer all of your questions, which you guys submitted a ton of questions, so thank you so much. But I'm also going to announce the giveaway winner. So I will do that first, just in case that's the only thing you really care about. We'll get that out of the way, and then I will get into the questions. So the way I did this was most of the people that left questions also entered the giveaway. So I just put the video URL is what I was looking for into a random comment generator, generated a random comment, and congratulations to Paperbacks and Ponytails. You are the winner of the giveaway. I will contact you on Instagram to get your wish list, and we can chat about it there. But congratulations, you are the winner. Yay! That is it for the giveaway. Congratulations. Thank you for entering. Thank you for leaving me comments and questions. And if that's all you cared about, I'll see you when I see you. But for the rest of you that are interested in the questions, let's just get into them because there are a lot. So question number 1 was, what is your biggest pet peeve or ick when it comes to books? For me, that is, I don't know. I feel like I would have to say, for some reason, and it's not necessarily an ick, but I hate, not hate is a really strong word, but I feel like I have a big pet peeve when it comes to magical forests. I don't think that I've ever read a book with a magical forest that I've actually enjoyed. And I know that's like a me thing. I know other people really love like the Hazelwood, Uprooted, like books with magical forests seem to be things that people enjoy. But for some reason, it just doesn't work for me. I don't think I necessarily have like an ick, like anything that like gives me the ick when I'm reading. Maybe like animal cruelty. I don't like animal cruelty. I don't like people like death of animals in books. I'm not a fan of that. So I feel like that would probably be it. I'm sure there are others, but that one's on like top of mind because I just read a book with that. So, all right, next question is, what's one book you wish you could read again for the first time for all the first read thrills? First of all, just so you know, I didn't prepare answers to any of these questions. Like I wrote them out so that I would have them like at a glance, but I didn't actually think of any of them. What books did I absolutely love that I would want to read again for the first time? See, this is the problem with not actually preparing, is I just like can't think of any book that I've ever read in my life. I'm tempted to say this because it's right here and I absolutely love it. No, you know what? You know what book? Oh, okay, you know what? You know what I'm going to say for this? I'm going to say The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I loved that book. I loved that series. And I don't think I give it enough love on this channel. I read it towards the beginning of my channel. I love that story. So in The Kiss of Deception, it is a young adult fantasy where you're following a princess who is running away from her wedding. She's supposed to get married to a prince from a neighboring kingdom. It's an arranged marriage and she is not interested, so she runs away. And you're following her and you're following 2 male perspectives. One is the prince that she was supposed to marry, and one is an assassin sent to kill her, and you don't know which one is which. So yes, you can reread this book but at that point you know which is which, so it's not as exciting. The real thrill of that book was trying to figure out which of these people was which, and I loved it so much, and I love that whole series so much. And if you haven't read it and you have any interest whatsoever in like YA fantasy romance, yeah, I would say it's fantasy romance. I would definitely check it out because it's amazing. I love it, and I wish I could reread it again for the first time. Next question was favorite trope and least favorite trope. So, my least favorite trope is an unreliable narrator in thrillers. I hate it. Could go my entire life without reading another thriller with an unreliable narrator. Not all women are alcoholics. Okay? Sometimes bad things just happen. Um, favorite trope? I really want to say like enemies to lovers, but that really only obviously applies to romance. And I like more than romance. Reluctant hero, is that a trope? Because I love that. I love a reluctant hero, an anti hero, a redeemable villain. Um, and I know those aren't necessarily tropes, they're more like character archetypes, but like I feel like they go along with different tropes. Does that make sense? Does that count? So, like, if we're talking things that will make me read a book, if it has an anti hero, a reluctant hero, a lovable villain, like a redeemable villain, I will absolutely read those books, and there's a really good chance that I'll love them. But if you want like a very specific trope, it would probably be enemies to lovers romance. Um, and a trope that I don't like would be an unreliable narrator in a thriller. Next question. Do you have a comfort book or series? I'm gonna shout this one out. This is the Song of the Lioness Quartet by Tamora Pierce. I've talked about this book, especially recently because I've been rereading it recently, but I've talked about this book so much and this series so much. This is such a comfort read for me. I absolutely love this story. I've loved it since I was a kid, and this is the kind of thing that like if I'm in a reading slump, I can just pick one of these up and I know that I'm going to love it and just be able to like blow right through it because it's just so good. I love this series so much. If you don't know what this series is, we are following Alana, who is a young girl who disguises herself as her twin brother to go to night training school, I guess, like a night training program, because in this world, girls are not allowed to become knights, and that's all she's ever wanted in her entire life is to become a knight. She makes friends along the way. She gets into trouble along the way. It's such a good series. She falls in love along the way. Love it. So good. All right, the next question is if you could live in any book world, which would it be? I got asked this a couple times. um that's a good question, but it's also a very hard question because I'm a fantasy reader and I wouldn't necessarily want to live in the worlds of the books that I love because they're quite often terrible. Can I say like Mistborn after the trilogy? Can I say that? Because I would definitely like to live in that world. I would want to have powers. Like, I would want to be able to use the magic, but I don't. I know myself, and I am at heart a chicken. So I would not want to actually like fight, but I want to be able to use magic. So probably Mistborn, like the world of Mistborn, but like after the books. The next one is what is the first author or person that made you fall in love with reading? Um this is going to sound really bad because I don't remember the author, but the woman that wrote the Babysitter's Club, because those were the first books that I like picked up and read on my own. Um when I was very young. Like I was you'd never know it because of how I am not a critical reader at this point and I read very slowly, but I was actually a very advanced reader when I was a young child. Um, so at a very young age, I binge read through the entire Babysitter's Club series, including Babysitter's Little Sister. So I don't remember who wrote them because my brain just doesn't function the way it's supposed to anymore. But I'm gonna say the author of the Babysitter's Club because that was my first like foray into like older kid reading, and I just loved it. I read every single one of them. I wanted to be one of them. Um, so yeah, I would say probably that. All right, the next one is my favorite fantasy standalone. And if you've been around lately and you have heard me talk about Blood Over Brighthaven, you would probably assume that I'm going to say Blood Over Brighthaven, and that would probably be like a very close second, but I'm actually probably going to answer with Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I loved that book. I loved that book. I loved the inanimate object that was like gave total main character energy. like, and I just love all of the ties into the Cosmere that you see in other series, even just from Warbreaker, which was not even like necessarily like that important of a book in the Cosmere, I want to say. I feel like not everybody loves that book. It's like Elantris. I absolutely loved Elantris, um, but not everybody does. And I feel like it's kind of the same with Warbreaker. Warbreaker is kind of one of the ones that gets kind of like ignored a little bit. It doesn't get as much love, but I absolutely love Warbreaker. So if you've never read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, you should totally read it. It is a color-based magic system, and it's just so fun. I love it. And then I also got this one a couple times. Favorite book of all time or series. So my favorite I just want to say this for my favorite series of all time, but um so for this, I don't really know because I would love to say that um The Gentleman Bastard is my favorite series of all time, but there's only 3 books out and it's supposed to be an 8-book series, and I don't know if it'll ever be finished. So I don't know if I can, like, in good faith, say that's my favorite series of all time. What else have I read that I really enjoyed? Do I even. Okay, so trying to answer these questions is basically just making me be like, do I even like books? Okay, so let's start with my favorite book of all time. So, if you had asked me this question before I started BookTube, I would have said Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, which I know is a little bit weird, but I read that book for the first time in 7th grade when I was 12 years old. And it was just like, I was like, this is it. This is my favorite book ever. And I just kind of kept that mentality for a very long time. Um, and I just kind of assumed that that was my favorite book for years and years and years, but I have never reread it. I tried and I just didn't really it didn't really hit the same way for me. I wasn't really enjoying it as much the second time. So then I hit kind of like this crisis where I was like, what is my favorite book? And like I said, I feel like it is The Lies of Locke Lamora. Um, but that's not a complete series. So maybe I'll put that for my favorite book. So for my favorite book, I will say it's The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch, but I feel like I can't say my favorite series is a series that is not even half completed. So instead, I think I'm going to go back to Mistborn again. I'm going to say my favorite series is Mistborn because I absolutely love those books. I do need to reread them. I haven't reread them in a while. I'm 3 books into Era 2, which Era 2 is not my favorite. Original Mistborn is my favorite. So I already kind of touched on this one, but the next one is the book you remember most from your childhood. And again, it's going to be, well, I could either say this one, or I could say The Babysitter's Club, or, you know, even Boxcar Children, Nancy Drew. Like, I loved all of those, but I would definitely say I read the most of Babysitter's Club, would probably be the thing that I remember most from my childhood. What would be your go-to recommendation if someone was in a reading slump? So I don't necessarily have one go-to recommendation for everyone, like a one-size-fits-all, but if you are a thriller reader, I would tell you to read something by Harlan Coben. And of course, these are not like personalized recommendations. This is just what I would read probably. So like based on my tastes, telling you what you should read if you're in a slump, I would say if you're a thriller reader, you should read something by Harlan Coben. He's a little old school, but I feel like his books for the most part still stand up, and they're just really good quality thrillers. Um, Fantasy, I would say either something by Brandon Sanderson. Again, Alana is a really cute, fast read if you are not opposed to young adult. But definitely Brandon Sanderson. If you are in the mood for fantasy, I would say start with a standalone. Do not pick up The Way of Kings. You know what I mean? Like, don't pick up a 1,000-page book. Pick up, a standalone. Um, Warbreaker, Elantris, that kind of thing. Ooh, or Blood Over Brighthaven. Oh my gosh, that book is so good. Um, that's more like if you like dark academia, I guess. It is fantasy, but it also has a little bit of like sciencey, mathy elements to it. So I feel like that could go for any of those kinds of genres. A romance reader, I would say pick up something by Emily Henry. I would definitely recommend either Funny Story or Beach Read. Those are my two favorites. I would definitely say like pick up a cozy mystery. They're short, they're predictable because they're all exactly the same, but they're just very comforting to me. So if I'm in a slump, I like to read things that are comforting, hence reading Alana, reading Sanderson, reading cozy mysteries, reading thrillers that I really enjoy, that I've read from the author before. That's the kind of thing that I like to read when I'm in a slump. Things that I know that I've liked before. What is the first book that made you so emotional? I don't get super emotional over books. So I think for this, I will just say Beartown by Frederick Bachman. It's not necessarily the first book that made me emotional, but it's one that comes to the top of mind because of the way it's written. I found myself sympathizing with people that I shouldn't have been, and then the emotion that it elicited was anger with myself because I couldn't understand why I was sympathizing with these people because they were bad people or they were on the side of someone that had done something bad. So really, it just made me angry because it was written so well that I was caring about characters that I should not have been caring about, and I should have been like, "No, you're bad. You deserve everything." Instead, I was like, "Aw," and then I would be mad at myself because, you know, if you have not read anything by Frederick Bachman, I highly recommend it. And more specifically, I definitely recommend Beartown, but I would check trigger warnings first. Next is, what is a book or series that you don't ever want to read? Anything by Colleen Hoover, I guess. I'm totally done with her. I've read 3 of her books before and I hated every single one of them. So I refuse to read anything else by her, and I will not ever read anything else by her. The same person also asked something very specific. They asked, have I read The Forbidden Game by L.J. Smith? I have not. I have never even heard of it. After I film this video, I will have to go check it out and see what that's all about. A book I would take to a deserted island. So I would take that as something that I could just like read over and over and over again, which I know I'm being repetitive, but like, I love this book. I could read this over and over and over again and never get tired of it. But if I'm trying to come up with a more unique answer, if you're tired of seeing me talk about that, I would say anything by Carissa Broadbent because I've only read one of her books so far, but I've absolutely loved it. So I feel like I could read that one book over and over and over again and just keep enjoying it. Either that or something that would just take a long time to read, like The Tale of Genji or like Shogun or something like really long. The Stand by Stephen King. Because like if I'm on a deserted island, I want something that will take me a while to get through, right? So we could also go that way. Favorite book of the year so far? I've talked about it a lot. I've already talked about it in this video. That would be Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. If you have not read it, it comes out, it is being traditionally published and it comes out at the end of October. You should definitely pick it up because I love that book. I think it was so good and I think everybody should read it. If you're interested in, dark academia, like scientific fantasy, like math-based fantasy, kind of stuff, I think you would love that book. All right, what is the book you're anticipating to read before the end of the year? There are a lot of books that I want to read before the end of the year, but I don't know if I will. So does that count as anticipating, like anticipated reads? One of them is this book here, which yes, it is right here, but that doesn't mean it's on my immediate TBR, which is The Ashes in the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Bradvent. I want to read Rhythm of War so that I can read Wind and Truth when it comes out. That comes out in December. That is the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. That would probably be like my most anticipated read. I also really want to read The Sword of Kaigen, which is by Emma Wong, who wrote Blood Over Brighthaven. That is her other book that is currently released, so I would like to read that. But that being said, will I read any of those by the end of the year? It's anyone's guess. All right, this one I probably should have prepared a little bit for. It is, if I had to pick 5 books to describe myself, what would I choose? I literally don't even know how to start with this. I really don't know. So instead of, I know I'm taking this question out of context, or like I'm changing your question, and for that I apologize. But instead of saying like 5 books to describe me, I will give you 5 books that defined me. How about that? And I have a lot of them right here. So 1, Alana, again. One of my all-time favorites from when I was a kid. 2, Mandy. This book I read so many times that the cover fell off and I had to like re-tape, like I taped up the entire thing because it was falling apart because I read it so many times. My goal in life when I was a kid was to have this garden that she has with this cute little path. 3, I will say The Babysitter's Club and The Boxcar Children. Those will count as 1, obviously. The Secret Garden. I absolutely loved this book when I was a kid, and yeah, I don't know, loved it. And these are the only 2 I have here, but basically anything by Roald Dahl. These were some of my favorites when I was a kid. I have George's Marvelous Medicine and the BFG, but I also loved James and the Giant Peach, Matilda. I read them all. How many was that? That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, I know that was not exactly your question, and maybe not exactly the answer you were looking for, but that's the best that I can do because I don't know what books would describe me. What books are like annoying, spacey, sleepy, not funny. I don't know. A book that I loved that pushed me out of my comfort zone. I'm going to say for this one, probably The Library at Mount Char. So it's a fantasy book. It's kind of about like good versus evil kind of deal. But when I was reading it, I was so confused. And it was kind of my first foray into like, I don't want to say like violent books, but it kind of was. Like it was definitely a lot like darker and grittier and more violent than I'm used to reading. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best answer for this question, but that's all I can really think about right now. Or like that's all I can really think of right now. I don't even necessarily remember that much about it, but I do remember that I loved it, and I do remember being uncomfortable while reading it. But I don't know if that's necessarily in the way that this question was meant, but that's what I'm going with. And all-time most hated book, and why? This is a very easy one, and it's going to be very quick, and that is Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I already used her for an answer as like a book that I will absolutely never read is anything by Colleen Hoover, and that is because I read Too Late. And if I didn't already dislike November 9 so much and subsequently dislike Verity so much, Too Late was enough to put me off her basically forever. Verity, the only reason I read is because somebody told me that it was different and it was like better, and like if you like thrillers, even if you don't like Colleen Hoover, you'll like Verity, but Verity was the same as every other Colleen Hoover book that I've read. Too Late, however, holds a special place in the blackest depths of my heart for most hated book of all time because, okay, so for some context, if you've never read Too Late and you don't know anything about Colleen Hoover, you don't care about her, whatever, Too Late was kind of a pet project that she did on like a Wattpad style like serial novel. that she said she worked on when she had writer's block for her like main works. And it shows when you read too late. But the problem is they then published too late. And it is a book about a girl stuck in an abusive relationship, and instead of getting out of it, she cheats on the abusive guy. He finds out, of course, and then bad things happen. I am going to spoil the end of this book, so if you do for some reason want to read it, even though I'm telling you right now it is my most hated book of all time, so if you have any kind of similarity in tastes with me when it comes to reading, you will not want to read it, so you might as well just stick around and find out. This book had like 3 epilogues or something. I don't even know. It had like an epilogue to an epilogue. It's one of those deals because, again, it was released serially, so she just decided she wanted to keep it going, I guess. But, okay, so you make it through this whole terrible book full of like abuse, cheating, violence, like all the things. You make it all the way to the end. You're like, finally, like, this is over. At the very end of this book, in the epilogue, I need you to pay attention to me. In the epilogue of this book, our main character is assaulted by her ex-boyfriend 3 times. 3 times in the epilogue. Why? The book was over. The story was wrapped up. It was done. He was out of the picture. So why did that need to happen? Why did that need to exist in this world? What made Colleen Hoover sit down and say, no, you know what the best way to end this story would be, to wrap it up in a nice little bow, is if we essay our main character when she finally feels like she's in a safe place. 3 times. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will never read another Colleen Hoover book. Never even mention it to me. Don't tell me, oh, but you might like this one, because I guarantee you that I will not. I will not. Her books are trash. I said it. Her books are trash. I hate them. I will never read another one. I've already put myself through 3 and I am done. So with that, on that happy note, that was all of the book related questions that I had. So now I'm going to get into, well, I'm actually going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to get into booktube, personal life questions and cake related questions, and Cooper questions. And then I'm saving my absolute favorite question for the very end of the video. So I will be right back. For you, it'll be a second. For me, hopefully a couple minutes, but we will get back into it. Okay, I got a drink. I changed my hair. I had to put my hair up. It's too hot in here. It's like the sun is starting to come in through the window. I don't know if you can see, I'm starting to sweat. So we are just gonna carry on, keep going, try to get through the rest of these questions before the sun starts beaming directly in my face. So let's get on with it. Next, I had just a couple of booktube related questions. And the one that I got a couple times was, why did you want to start a booktube channel? And for me, I had started, like, I hadn't known that booktube was a thing, really. I did by the time I started my channel. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I was a hipster. I'm not saying it like that. I first got into books being talked about on YouTube through like a beauty girl that I used to watch. Her name was Elle Fowler, I think, and she was a makeup girl. But every now and then she would just talk about a book that she was reading and really enjoying. And I think because I tended to gravitate towards those videos more than the makeup videos, the algorithm kind of figured that out and started promoting, like, pushing booktube content to me. So I started watching that, and then, you know, I was reading the books that people were talking about on booktube, and I was like, yeah, but now I have no one to talk to about these books, because I have one friend in real life who is a reader, but she tends to read mostly romance, so our tastes don't like overlap that much. I mean, she does read other stuff too, but we just like don't talk about books as much as you would think for 2 people that are best friends and readers. So I was like, I want to talk to people about the books that I'm reading now. Like, I'm hearing about all these awesome books, I'm reading them, and then I have no one to talk to. So I started my channel. My first video was, it's still up on the channel. I don't think I've really taken any videos down except for the one asking for questions for this video because I messed it up. It was a reading vlog. Somebody who I don't think even makes videos anymore was doing like a read along, like a buddy read along on her channel. So I kind of used that as an excuse to make my first reading vlog, and I uploaded that as my first video. At the beginning of my channel, I did do a lot of reading vlogs. I pretty much put up a weekly reading vlog every week. Were they good necessarily? Probably not. But I did put up a reading vlog pretty much every week when I started my channel, just as a way to talk about what I was reading. So that was really all it was. I just wanted to talk about books, and I didn't really have anyone to talk about them with. So I figured I would talk to a camera and put it out there, and if anybody had read those books and wanted to chat with me about them, they would. The other question that I got about BookTube was, what's the hardest part of having a YouTube channel and the easiest part of having a YouTube channel? The hardest part, hands down, if you've been around for any length of time, you'll probably be like, oh yeah, that checks out, is finding the time to edit. So I feel like, without like going into too much detail and like just complaining, I have a full-time job and I have a decent commute to that full-time job. So that takes up like the majority of my day. And like when I get home from work, I basically have like an hour or two to eat dinner, do whatever else I want to do with my day, shower, play with the dog, get ready for bed. So I don't have a lot of time. And it was not always this way. And I used to have more energy, but like it's been 5 years. I've had some health stuff go on. My energy levels have been just like steadily declining. So it's just finding the time. Like normally I film on my day off, but then editing is like something that I have to do during the week. Either I have to like have a marathon session of like filming, editing, uploading, like making thumbnails and just do it all in one day, or I have to take on the editing after work when I'm pretty much exhausted and I don't have a lot of time and I want to just relax. So that's the hardest part for me, is just like finding time to edit and upload the videos, which is why my content comes out fairly slowly at this point, and sometimes I miss videos for a week and stuff. It's not because I don't have them, it's because I don't have time to edit them. That being said, the easiest part I feel like is just chatting about the books. Like I love reading. I love talking about what I'm reading. I'm not necessarily the most eloquent or critical when it comes to talking about books, but it's more of just like, I love this book and I want to gush about it, and like I just want people to read it. So I love sharing the things that I love. So I think that's the easiest part. It's just like getting on camera and gushing about the books that I absolutely love. So that is it for the BookTube questions. There weren't a ton of BookTube questions. The next category is kind of like personal life and cake related. I had thrown cake decorating out there as an option and some people rolled with it, which is good, which is great. I love talking about baking. The first question is, how long have I been married and how did I meet my husband? So I have been married for 6 years. We've been together for a little over 10 years and we met online. The way I feel like most people do these days. We met online. I was bored. I lived alone. Like I had just moved into my very first like apartment by myself, like not living with friends or anything. And I was bored one night and my best friend had met a guy online and she was like, hey, you should try it. And I was like, I'm not interested in guys right now. Like I don't want a boyfriend. But I was so bored. So I got on the website and they had a bunch of different like questions. They had like thousands and thousands and thousands of questions that you could answer to like match up more scientifically with people. And so I was bored. I was sitting on my couch and I just answered like 1,000 of these questions. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was a lot. It was multiple hundreds of these questions because I was just like, whatever, I have nothing better to do. I had Netflix on in the background and I was just answering questions. I got a message from my now husband and I saw that we were a 98% match based on hundreds of questions. So I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. The rest of them were like 93%, 94%. 98% is really high. So it was the highest by far. So I gave it a shot and it worked out. The next question was also about my husband, and it is your husband a reader? Yes, my husband is a reader. He is not a reader like I am a reader, or like most people that make booktube videos are readers. He does not read 50, 100, 200 books a year. He is a lot more organized with his reading. He will pick up a series and just read it through until he's done, and then he'll pick up another series and read it through until he's done. So he's what I would consider like a normal reader. And he most recently he read Malice, then he read the second series in the Malice world, whatever it was called, and he just started, or he recently read Of Blood and Fire by not Stephen Cahill, Ryan Cahill, and told me that I need to read that. So he is more that kind of reader. He also read Murtagh recently because he had read Aragon when he was younger and really enjoyed it. So when that came out, he picked it up immediately, read that. Then he was reading The Faithful and the Fallen and whatever. I don't actually know what he's reading right now, but he is most definitely a fantasy reader. He is very firmly in the genre of fantasy, and he reads through an entire series before he starts something else, which is bonkers to me. I don't know what that's about. The next questions are kind of like cake related questions. And the first one is the most outrageous cake decorating you've done. So I'm not necessarily an outrageous cake decorating kind of person. I will put like a few cakes that I've made on the screen, but I trend more towards like classic looking, aka like boring cakes when I decorate. I have a very like simplistic style for the most part, but I have done some orders for people at my job that have been a little bit more creative or like fun, I guess. Um, but that being said, nothing super outrageous. I don't work a lot with fondant. I have in the past, but I'm not like super good at it. It's not a skill that I've really practiced too much. So I don't make any like really crazy kind of cakes using fondant or anything like that. It's just more of a hobby that I have. I do manage a bakery. That is my job in real life. It is a grocery store bakery though, so it's not like super into like pastry or anything, I guess you would say. Most of my like baking love just comes from actually baking at home and stuff. But yeah, so I don't really do, I'm sorry if that's kind of disappointing. I don't really do super exciting cake decorating. It's more like a simplistic style is my style. Favorite cake flavor and favorite top 3 flavors were 2 separate questions that I got, so I will just give the top 3. My absolute favorite combo for a cake is vanilla cake with a chocolate buttercream frosting. I don't know why. It's just a combination that I've always loved. Don't give me chocolate cake with vanilla frosting. It is not the same. It has to be vanilla cake with chocolate frosting. Very simple. Love it. But then I also recently, it was actually one of the pictures that I showed, I made a cake for my father and stepmother's vow renewal, and it was a lemon and blackberry cake, and it was so good. So good. So that's probably one of my top favorites now. And then anything almond flavored, I love almond, like marzipan flavored things. Those are probably, as of right now, like in this very moment, those are probably my 3 favorite flavors of cake. Subject to change. Although the vanilla with chocolate frosting pretty much just has always been my favorite, and that will be probably my go-to forever. Top 5 music artists. That's a good question that I don't know if I can answer. So I've been listening to, like the rest of the world, a lot of Taylor Swift lately. I've been a Taylor Swift fan for a very long time. Basically, like when Teardrops on My Guitar came out is when I started listening to Taylor Swift, and I've just loved her ever since. Some of her stuff I like more than others. I do prefer her older stuff to her newer stuff, but I would consider her one of my favorite artists. Luke Combs. I love Luke Combs. He is kind of like a breath of fresh air in the country music industry because he is not afraid to go against the norm in the genre, if that makes sense. He's not afraid to speak out against things that are considered like quintessential pieces of country music. Um, if you know, you know, I guess. So I really love him, and on top of it, his music is just really good. Who else? Linkin Park will forever and always be a favorite. It was a bonding experience between my husband and I when we first met. We were both huge Linkin Park fans. I listen to everything. I don't know. Like, I listen to everything, but I don't necessarily think there's been anything recently that I've been like, this is my absolute favorite of all times. Those are like the three that I always love and always have loved and always will love. Um, but I guess just in general, recently I've been liking Sabrina Carpenter. Again, like everybody else, she just pops up on my YouTube music and I enjoy it when it comes on. I've been listening to the Golden Age of Boy Bands or whatever it is playlist on YouTube Music lately and enjoying that. So, well, that's a first. I just filled up the storage on my phone. That's never happened before. So that means I really need to keep talking and get this over with because I was not able to free up a ton. So let's just say the Backstreet Boys for my fifth one. They're not like a new favorite or anything, but they were my favorite in middle school, and I've been enjoying like listening to it again. So we'll just say that. Don't take those as like my top 5 artists of all time, but like right now, that's kind of what I've been listening to. So we'll say that. And the last question for the lifestyle, like personal cake and cake related questions is, do you bake with fridge temperature liquid and eggs? Absolutely not. Unless the recipe explicitly calls for it, that is sacrilegious. We do not do that in this house. We bring everything to room temperature as best we can. Unless it's kind of like a last minute thing, if I have to like put it in the microwave or something to warm it up a little bit and it doesn't get quite to room temperature, I have been known to do that. But for the most part, I try to bring everything up to room temperature before I use it because it just bakes up better that way. And the last section of questions are Cooper related questions. So many people were asking about Cooper that I had to make him his own category. So a bunch of the questions kind of roll in together. So I'm just going to read those all off and then I will kind of tell you the story of Cooper. So it was, I would love to know more about Cooper. Did you specifically want a dog like him? How did he come into your life? How did you get your dog? What kind of dog do you have? So Cooper, who has moved over into the corner to sleep, he is a golden doodle. He is an F1B golden doodle, which means that he has kind of like 25% golden retriever and 75% poodle. He was bred, like one of his parents was a golden doodle and the other was a poodle. So he has a lot more poodle in him than he has golden retriever. And we were technically looking for a dog like him. My husband is actually extremely allergic to dogs. So our whole relationship, I was always kind of like, oh man, I really wish I could have a dog. Like, I know you're really allergic, but if we could find one, like if there was ever a chance to find a dog that you're not allergic to, like, would you be up for it? And he's like, yeah, I love dogs. I just can't live with one because I'm super allergic. We had been together for like eight or so years, and I had kind of just come to the conclusion that I would never have a dog because he is very allergic. It's one of those things like, if I go to a friend's house that has a dog and I come home, he immediately starts sneezing and like whatever. I have to put my clothes, like take all of my clothes off, put them directly in the washing machine, like take a shower. He is so allergic. And like his mom got a puppy or like had a puppy for a little while, and we went over and played with it and it licked his hand and it immediately turned into like a big hive. Like he is allergic to dogs. So I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm never actually gonna have a dog. It's a fun thought, but it would never actually happen. Then my best friend one day texted like our group chat with our other friend and was like, hey, do you guys know anybody that would be interested in a 5-month-old golden doodle puppy for $500? And I was kind of like, tell me more, you know, because my husband and I had talked, and it's like, if he wasn't allergic to dogs, like, what kind of dogs would we get? His favorite dog of all time is a husky, and he loves golden doodles. So I was like, tell me more. I want to know more about this $500 golden doodle situation. I want to put it out there at the beginning of this story that I was never a person that would go to a breeder. I always said I was 100% adopt, don't shop, rescues or bust. Like, I would never buy from a breeder, ever. That was my mentality. That being said, Cooper did come from a breeder. My best friend's mom knew a person who knew a person who knew a breeder, basically. Like, it was like my best friend and my best friend's mom knew someone who knew someone who knew a breeder who had like an insane size litter of puppies, and they were trying to get rid of the leftover puppies. I'm using quotes because I would never say this, but that's basically what they were saying. So if you know anything about golden doodle puppies from breeders, breeders sell them for like thousands and thousands of dollars. So basically what it was is they were aging out because everybody wants a puppy. They don't want like a 5-month-old adolescent dog, basically. I talked to my husband and I was like, look, if we can go and like meet the dogs and like you can rub your face on them and we can like see how you react, can we just try? So this was on like a Thursday, and on Saturday we went to this place. We had to drive up. It was like an hour away from where we live. And they were very nice people, but I'm pretty sure they kept the dogs outside in kennels in the heat of summer. So like, I don't know how I feel about that. But they brought all of the dogs out. They had 4 of them. One of them was like a golden doodle, but it looked like a golden retriever. Like, it had more golden retriever. And then the other 3 were more poodle like him. He was the blondest. The other 2 were more white. And they brought them out, and like Cooper went straight for my husband, and he just like hung out with my husband the whole time. My husband had absolutely no reaction to him. The girl, the more golden retriever one, came over to him, and he had a reaction to her. Like, she licked him, and he just like hives. So that one went away. And then it was basically down to those 3. I actually had another one that I was playing with and really liked, but my husband was the deciding factor. So I was like, hey, if this is the one that you kind of like bonded with almost, and like he came over to you and you love him, if you're not allergic to him, like, we were not planning on getting a dog. Like, even with all of this going on, like, we saw the dogs, we were not planning on getting a dog. I just kind of put myself in the mindset that he was definitely going to be allergic to this dog and we weren't going to end up with a dog. That being said, obviously we got a dog. And they didn't even have like a leash, a collar. We didn't have anything. We didn't get dog food. We didn't get a bed. We got nothing because we were like, we're not going to buy a bunch of stuff and then not get a dog. So we left there. We went directly to Target and got him a collar and a leash and a bowl and some treats. And then we took him to see my mom. And she fell in love, of course, because he was adorable. And then by the time like we came back to where we live, and it was like 15 minutes before Petco was closing, my husband ran in, got a bed, got like some food, whatever. And it was crazy. Like, it just, like, I couldn't believe that it happened. I didn't think it actually would happen, but it's like the best thing ever. I love him so much. And like, I do hate to say that we got him from a breeder, but we just prefer, we refer to him as our like clearance bargain bin dog. We love him. He's our bargain bin boy. He's so cute. I mean, he's just laying there, but yeah. So yes, we did get him from a breeder. I mean, there are breeders that are like ethical and whatever. I don't know anything about the breeders that we got him from, but they did get him his vaccines, but he came to us full of worms. So like, the first week we had him, we had a huge vet bill because we had to get him dewormed. So So I hope that's probably more explanation than you ever could have wanted, but that is how Cooper came into our lives, and we love him so much, and we hope that he has a better life here than he would have had just like living outside in the kennel at the breeder or wherever dogs go when the breeder can't get rid of them. Okay, moving on, because oh, are you waking up? That's good, because one of these questions I need you for. Next question. Why is your dog the cutest? Cooper, why are you the cutest? He said, I don't know, I just am. Next question. How is your dog the cutest? Cooper, how are you the cutest? He said, I don't know, I just am. And the next one I need to get him up for, because the next question is, if you put a hat on Cooper, how long would he wear it? Let's find out, shall we? Okay, I don't know where any of my husband's baseball caps are, so we're just going to use his gardening hat instead. Can you sit? Okay, so there's your answer. Not very long. Let's try again, just for good measure. Stay. Stay. Hey. Stay. Stay. Head down. Good boy. Can you sit? Okay. I hope that answers your question. Cooper is joining us now because I woke him up. And the last question that I got. You want to be in the frame? Yes, he still looks homeless. I mean, I know he was in a video a couple videos ago and he looked homeless. He still looks homeless. He's going to the groomer this weekend. Don't judge. The very last question that I got asked, he's not interested in being in the frame. We're gonna go back over here. I saved this one for last because it is my favorite, and that is future John Gwynn plans. Listen, Zach. Can I call you Zach? We're friends here, right? I love that you asked this question because you knew that I would love this question. I feel like that's why you asked it, because you were like, she'll get a kick out of that one. And I did. And my future John Gwynn plans are to someday finish The Faithful and the Fallen. I did pick up Valor a couple months ago and then I haven't picked it up again. I will, I swear. I'm going to make it through that series. It is going to be my goal. I was going to say for the end of this year, but there's only 4 months left and we all know how long it took me to read Malice. I think it's going to be a goal of mine for next year to read that entire series, like finish off the last 3 books. Maybe even the first 6 months of the year if I'm getting crazy. Like, I don't know what my reading plans are going to be for next year, but they're going to involve The Faithful and the Fallen. But with that, that is all the questions that you guys had for me. I hope I answered them well enough. I did my best. It's a very long video. I thank you if you stuck around this long. And I also thank you for 1,000 subscribers. Like, I never thought when I started this channel that I would ever have 1,000 subscribers. And like, I know in the grand scheme of things, like, you know, there are channels with millions and millions and millions of subscribers. I know some people wouldn't see 1,000 subscribers as like a big number, but for me, that's more than I ever imagined. And like the fact that there are 1,000 people that watched one of my videos and heard what I had to say and said, I might want to see more of that. I'm just overwhelmingly grateful. I just love that there's that many people that are willing to chat about books with me, because I know, again, I feel like I've said it 3 times in this video. This video is very long. I don't remember what I said in this video, but like, I know I'm not like the most critical reader or reviewer, and I know sometimes my opinion on a book is just like, I hate that book. I love that book. Why? I don't know. So I really appreciate if you take the time to interact with me knowing that I might not have the most critical things to say. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Congratulations again to the winner of the giveaway. But yeah, so I am super grateful and thankful to every single one of you who has taken even the half a second that it takes to subscribe to my channel and who watch my videos and who continue to comment even though it takes me forever to get back to you. I am so sorry. Like, life has been lifing, and my, the time it takes me to respond to comments and stuff and get videos out for you guys, I feel like just keeps getting longer and longer. But I appreciate all of you who stick it out and like hang around for more. And there will be more. I have no plans of quitting anytime soon. It takes me a while to get things out. But that is going to do it for this video. If you have made it this far in the video and you are not subscribed yet, consider subscribing. Obviously, I never pressure anyone to subscribe. I don't normally ask, but if you want, you can. If not, don't worry about it. All right, so that's it for me. I'm gonna stop rambling. My phone is filling up again, but I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.